I've got a silver lining for you guys. The era of price wars seems to be upon us, or at least could be upon us. Only CFO, who we both follow on X, posted the ROI I get from Claude has broken my brain on all vendor renewals. You want me to pay 2x what we pay for Claude for your little workflow tool? I've never pushed harder on pricing and threatening to churn in my life. And I don't think it's just him. I keep hearing there's a lot more pressure on existing SaaS companies. They want to keep these renewals. Not only can they not get away with price increases to the same extent they used to, but many of them are being pushed down on price.
Yeah, and I think Claude and OpenAI are used to actually augment workflows and do stuff they couldn't before. But even more so, it's great to have a stalking horse there to say, well, we're using this over here, and I can't really substantiate paying that if I'm paying this.
The history of SaaS is filled with price increases. People usually start cheap and then they gradually, notch the price higher and higher as they grow. I mean, there have been a lot of instances out there in tech and non-tech of price wars and price declines over time. So like cloud computing is a big example that comes to mind for me. Like I remember the cloud wars of like the 2010s, right? Where Google, AWS, and Microsoft, they were all competing for market share and just one-upping each other on how low they can go on price.
I mean, I yearn for the DoorDash Grubhub price wars of like 2021, where you could get a burrito delivered to your house and they would pay you to eat it.
We might be coming back to those days. Grubhub is going to eat the fees. Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah. But in all these price wars, though, Kyle, the money has to be subsidized from somewhere, right? Even if I like the benefit, don't get me wrong. I'm welcoming one of these, but it has to come from somewhere.
Let's get into a few other examples, right? So streaming, right? Netflix was at $12.99 a month. Disney Plus didn't launch until 2019, and they undercut Netflix in half. They could probably make it up in other business lines within Disney. Like this wasn't the only revenue stream, but what can happen or what often happens is like people do this to try to take share. They get really competitive and then often like they change their mind over time or they realize like, hey, maybe we can make it up in ad revenue or like find some other revenue streams to offset it.
The streaming wars are an excellent example because they also know that if you get a bunch of people on the platform and the content's really good and seasons of shows that you're already socially engaged into keeping up with, like Game of Thrones with HBO Max, then they jack up the price on you later.
And if they can get you watching more Disney, they can get you going to the parks, and maybe they can get you going to Disney movies. And there's a whole kind of strategic play around this. I think the other example that comes to mind for me is like airlines. I think also in the 2010s there was the rise of all these like budget airlines like Frontier, Spirit. They kind of all popped up out of nowhere, and the majors responded by actually they didn't like lower the price of their core tickets, but they had an interesting segmentation strategy where they said, we're going to launch a basic economy seat that's going to be a lot cheaper, and we'll advertise that price if you're on Google Flights, but then we're going to charge the same amount for like a normal seat.
I think it also led to a lot of unbundling of the services you would typically get on an airline. For instance, if you wanted to bring a bag, even a carry-on, they were going to charge you now. Optically, it would look like it was 40% cheaper. Once you add back all the stuff that you would normally expect, it ends up being about at par.
There's different ways this can play out. Like there can be price wars that are real price wars and just are a race to the bottom with everyone. And then there are price wars that are a little bit more strategic, where I think the players are smarter in how they navigate that. So they communicate a lower price, but don't end up hurting all of their profitability. But I think so some signs that things are happening right now. So we talked about this Claude example and only CFO. Another example that comes to mind is that HubSpot announced new pricing for the Breeze customer agent, which seems to me kind of like an intercom competitor that resolves your customer support interactions. Their EVP of operations, Chris Hogan, posted on LinkedIn recently about how they're moving it from $1 per conversation to 50 cents per resolved conversation. So that actually means not only are they cutting the price per conversation in half, they're only making money when it's successful. So it seems to me like they're cutting price by like 70% maybe, and they're coming in at half the cost of what Intercom is charging for Fin, which to me is saying like we're going really hard to try to win market share here.
You also have to point out that HubSpot's platform has a lot more breadth than Intercom's does. It spans multiple departments and functions. So there has to be some play, I'm guessing here, Kyle. You correct me if I'm wrong, that they want to get you on multiple products here.
There's a lot of other business lines that HubSpot can treat as its profit center, and this probably like keeps you more locked into the HubSpot ecosystem. And so, like if you're buying the Breeze agent, you probably are also buying their CRM and their marketing and all of these other products.
Side note though, like this customer support area, this is like a knife fight. You've got Decagon, you've got Sierra, you've got Intercom, now you got HubSpot. Like they're coming out of the woodworks here.
It's becoming increasingly easy to launch a product or at least like have the same features. And so then you have to think about how are you going to win? And part of that might be competing on price. If you are in this market and you're Intercom and HubSpot just says they're going to undercut you in half, what do you do?
I think I stay the course, honestly, because I don't want to permanently set a new floor on what everyone's going to charge. And I already know them providing high value. I think what gets lost in a lot of these pricing conversation is the value you're providing. Like if you look at what IKEA and Walmart were trying to do, they weren't trying to be the cheapest, right? They wanted to be the least expensive on like a per unit of value of what they would provide. And I don't think anybody wants to be perceived as like the Spirit Airlines version of customer support. That's going to erode margin over time if you're not giving your customers like a great experience.
What are some of the other markets where you're seeing like price pressure or increasing price war behavior?
I'm seeing it in the ERP and core accounting market, and that's been a stalwart of being able to just increase prices by 6 to 8% every year, 6 to 8%, 6 to 8%, multi-year lock-in, hard to get around the NetSuites of the world. And a lot of these incumbents are well-funded coming in. They're offering some really sweetheart deals. There's even one company out there that's giving it away for free for the first year to certain
They're giving
startups.
away an ERP for free.
Yeah, I know one company that's giving it away for free.
You don't want to blow up their spot, but I'd take a free
You
ERP.
wouldn't even know where to park this thing in the driveway, Kyle. Some of these tools, though, like a starter package, you would say, like, and they're trying to get you at the point of where you would naturally go from a QuickBooks to a NetSuite, which usually happens around, call it 25 or 50 million in revenue. You're walking into a package that's minimally 40 to 50,000. And so a lot of these companies were discounting it down to 20, 25, 30. But then a couple newer players raised even more money, and they're like, "How about 5,000 for the first year?" You're like, "Holy shit, this is actually gonna be cheaper than what I was paying for QuickBooks." Like mathematically, it's completely upside down. Ali and the team at Tabs are building something that directly addresses one of the biggest headaches I see finance teams deal with today: pulling data from your ERP, your CRM, your FP&A tools, and your usage systems and actually making it all work together. If you're running usage-based pricing or complex contracts, you already know how this usually plays out. Contracts live in one system, usage data lives somewhere else, billing happens in another tool. RevRec gets layered on top at month end, and finance ends up just reconciling everything by hand to close the books. This is exactly the problem Tabs was built to solve. Tabs is an AI-native revenue platform built for controllers and CFOs. It brings together data from your ERP, CRM, and real product usage into a single system of record. From there, it automates billing, collections, and revenue recognition without finance having to duct tape workflows together every month. If usage-based revenue is core to your business, this is the future of how billing and RevRec get done. Go check them out at tabs.com/run. That's tabs.com/run.